Good evening and welcome to the Bedminster Township Committee meeting for June 6, 2022. I recognize that we have a quorum, not just a quorum, we have a full complement of the Township Committee. Attending in person, Committeeman Hickey, Committeeman me, Committeewoman Fernandez, and attending remote is Committeeman Douglas Stevenson. Ms. Ray, may we please have the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Yes, I need to find my agenda. Excuse me. I act the notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News Somerville, Bernardsville News Whippany, and to all subscribers and posted at the Township Municipal Building on January 6, 2022.
Okay, thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we proceed with the rest of the meeting, just a couple of comments I'd like to make. Just as we've been doing for 2 years now, going over the COVID numbers. Laboratory confirmed cases, we are now at 1,195. And we remain at 7 fatalities attributed to COVID. At our last meeting, we were at 1,165 total laboratory confirmed cases. I'm not going to go over the vax numbers. So the vaccination numbers are exactly the same percentages that they were last time. We're not seeing any significant movement in vaccinations, and the vax numbers that come out from the state do not account for boosters. So perhaps that'll be revised later on, but that's where it is. But I think everyone has their own anecdotal experiences with COVID and this variant, and just leave it at it's going around. And try as you can. Very hard to avoid, but the good news is, the folks that are getting it, and certainly that we're talking to, it's not nearly as severe and virulent as it was a year ago or 2 years. Since our last meeting, we had the Memorial Day Parade. I want to give a special thank you again to the Fire Hills Bedminster Fire Department, the Fire Hills Bedminster First Aid, and the Pottersville Volunteer Fire Company for organizing the parade. As Mayor Parker used to remark, it's the one parade where you start in one town and end in another, but eventually all the viewers and people who are standing on the sidelines become part of the parade as we all go down Main Street into Far Hills for the ceremony at Far Hills, followed by the hot dogs, lemonade, and iced tea, which was great to have back. So thank you to the folks from our first responders. Unfortunately, another passing of a Bedminster resident who's been involved in our township, recognizing the passing of Todd Stiers, a Bedminster resident. The Stiers family is very active in town and very active in the county. And Todd served on our sewer advisory committee for many years and an active participant with lots of good ideas that he brought from his own private experience to the use and operation and possible expansion and analyses of the sewer fees, and improvements to be made to the sewer. So we certainly extend condolences to the Stiers family and to all his friends. With that, let's see, we will go to public comments. So this is the one opportunity for folks who are looking to make public comment at our meeting. Anyone who is participating in person can come up to the lectern over here. And if you are participating remotely, it doesn't look like we have anyone participating by phone. So if you are participating through Zoom, and wish to make a public comment, take your cursor, scroll, bring it down to the bottom, and where it says participants, you can click on that and raise hand.
I have not seen anybody wishing to make a comment there.
Okay, let's move on. We have one set of meeting minutes to approve. That's the May 16, 2022 Township Committee meeting minutes. Comments? If there are no comments, we would take a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got 5 permits and raffles to consider tonight. We're going to take the first 4, and we're going to hold off on the 5th one. So let's go through the first 4. First is a social affair permit to benefit the Center for Contemporary Arts on September 16, 2022 at the Center for Contemporary Arts, 2020 Burnt Mills Road. Next is the social affair permit to benefit Dish and Sons Distillers LLC from May 28, 2022 to December 10, 2022 at River Road Park. And that is for Sour and Spirits participating at the Farmers Market. And third is a social affair permit to benefit the Essex Horse Trials on July 1, 2022 from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Hamilton Farms Golf Club, 1040 Parsville Road. And the fourth is a fireworks permit for a fireworks display scheduled for June 30, 2022 at Hamilton Farms Golf Club, 1040 Parsville Road. So let's actually take the first 3. So any comments or questions regarding the social affair permits for Center for Contemporary Arts, Sour and Spirits, or Essex Horse Trials? Okay, seeing none, maybe a motion to approve the first 3 social fair permits.
So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so the fireworks display for June 30th at Hamilton Farms Golf Club. Is there anyone from Hamilton Farms? Yes, there is someone from Hamilton Farms. Imagine that. If you could come up to the lectern,
Absolutely.
give us your name and title over at Hamilton.
Sure. Jason Harrison, and I'm the director of Greens and Browns.
Okay, so Jason, if you can just explain what the request is here.
Sure. So we've been having a 4th of July event for years now at Hamilton Farm Golf Club. So it's a standard fireworks display that you would see at any 4th of July event. We do place them on the back of the driving range, which is about 1,000 feet from the spectators or more. And it's just a standard display.
Okay, so what time will you be starting and what time will you be ending the fireworks?
So they will start setting up the fireworks between 4 and 4:30, and they will start sending them off around dusk. So
So,
this time of year, it's right around 9 o'clock.
okay, so around 9 o'clock.
And it should last about 20 minutes.
Okay, 20 minutes. And Robin, do we have a report from either Steve Dill or from the chief or from the fire department itself on the protocols?
I don't see Steve Dill on the call. The Chief Rock did give me his report, which I will read. I've reviewed the application and have no concerns with it being approved. This is an annual event and the club will have appropriate law enforcement personnel for security and traffic.
Okay, and nothing from the fire department?
Nothing from the fire
Okay.
department. But it was approved by Steve Dill.
Okay, so Steve did approve
He
it.
did
Okay.
approve it. He's just not on the call today.
Okay. As you may know, or maybe not, so Pingree held an event, very nice event. I wasn't there, but I know that Bedminster was well represented at the Pingree introduction for the Parsville campus. And despite what appears to be best efforts by Pingree, and we'll actually cover this a little bit later in the meeting, including mailing to 1,000-foot property owner list, some property owners and residents did not get notice and were upset over, we didn't know there was this event. So is there a plan or something that you can do to notify the owners?
I can't because there's 4 homes that border the property. The closest one is about 5,000 yards from the fireworks display. And he happens to be a member and he'll be part of the event. So all 4 homes that are within thousands of yards are members. Again, most likely part of the event, but we can notify them for sure. So there's no issue. And in terms of public roads, obviously Pottersville Road and Fowler Road, we're miles away from that. So.
Okay, I'm just saying, just be
Absolutely.
careful. And if you have an extra step to go through, you might want to take that extra step.
Okay, absolutely.
Comments or questions for Mr. Harrison? Doug, anything from you?
No, Mayor.
Can we see them from the side of it?
Probably, I would imagine so, right? So June 30th, that's going to be on a Saturday.
Thursday.
Oh, that's a Thursday.
Yeah, we're cheap.
Okay, so the Saturday, yeah. Right,
Where
so,
I'll be.
okay, there you go. No further questions or comments. May we take a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now next up is a special use permit, not for Hamilton Farms, but located at Hamilton Farms. This is a special use permit for New Jersey American Water for a temporary treatment trailer from June 13, 2022 to June 13, 2024 at Hamilton Farms Golf Club. So I have one quick question before we get into the discussion about the special use permit. John, I was under the impression that our special use permits were only good for 1 year.
I have to check the ordinance, but I think you're correct there.
So that's my recollection, that when we've done special use permits, it's on a 1 year basis, not on
They
a
have to
2.
come back.
And they have to come back. And if they continue, eventually they'll be referred over to the land use board. So even if this was approved, that this would not be for a 2 year period, but only a 1 year period. Okay, so having said that, are there any representatives from New Jersey American Water who would like to talk about what they're applying for and if there's any further details on the request?
Yes, Mayor, I have Jim Floystrop here from New Jersey American Water.
Okay.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening. So, Mr. Forstroff, if you'd, I think we actually have your spelling, we had it somewhere up there. Yeah,
On the permit, yeah.
And some-
okay, so, and your title with New Jersey American Water?
I'm a senior project engineer.
Okay, Mr. Forstroff, if you could just walk us through the proposed project.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. So pretty much big picture, what happens is during the summer, the temperature of the water inside the storage tank increases, obviously. And what that does is increases the demand for chlorine. So it uses up more of the chlorine, such that when the water leaves the tank, it goes out into the system, the chlorine residual is lower than we're targeting or we would like. Still well above, state minimums, but not where we would like it to be. So we're actually doing several projects to rechlorinate at the tanks, at several tanks, and this is one of them. Excuse me. And what we're trying to do is to kind of move quickly. So our plan and our request to the board is to put a trailer next to our existing tank. And inside of that trailer will be the chemical feed equipment. And then we would come back to the board in the future to put in a permanent facility. So I did hear your point about the permit being 1 year. I think I do recall actually the engineer saying that I had put down 2 years just because I figured it would probably take something in that time frame. So just being honest that it's probably going to be, a couple of years before we before we have the permanent system ready to go. But we have no problems at all coming back for, a year from now if we need to. So the trailer itself is, it's like a large landscape trailer. It's a double axle trailer, Vito's, probably 25-ish feet long, 8 feet wide, maybe 7 feet tall. And we're planning to park it right next to the tank now. Associated with this project and with the permanent project, we don't currently have primary electric out there. So we have a permit to install a new underground primary electric service from Pottersville Road down the golf club access drive and then up the tank drive access driveway to the water tank. So that new underground electric service will serve both the temporary facility and the permanent facility when we get there.
So at one point, someone had described this to me as a dechlorination, but this is actually a rechlorination.
Rechlorination, correct. So it's to boost chlorine levels because basically the source of supply is far away from the tank. So, it takes time to get there, and over time, the level of chlorine drops. And
Okay.
that drop rate increases as the water temperature increases.
And the water storage tank is used for potable purposes or for some other use?
It's potable water tank, yes.
Okay, and what are the areas served by the storage tank? What system does that feed into?
I have some folks from our operations group on, and they'd probably be better to answer that. Bill or Chris, would you be able to answer that?
It serves Pottersville, Peapack, Gladstone. And Bedminster.
And Mr. Florstrup, what's the, I know there's a sense of urgency. When do you anticipate coming before the Bedminster Land Use Board on a permanent site plan approval?
Mike, so we don't have anything. How do I say this the right way? So I'm in project delivery, right? And I get handed a project and I run with it. So our planning group, another group, is the group that basically, I'll say, feeds us the work. So we don't have anything from them yet in terms of the permanent facility. But my guess is it would be, something on the order of a couple of years. That's why I put on that application for 2 years.
Okay. And based upon the aerial provided with the application, I'll say other than aerials, I didn't know there was a tank there. So
It's really well hidden. Absolutely.
And I mean, it's not really visible from Pottersville Road or from Fowler Road. Or across, maybe if you're 50 feet high, you could see it from larger cross, but I've never seen it. So I would imagine that the trailer itself is not visible. Electric circuit certainly not going to displace anything.
I assume there's a pump to pump the chemicals in. Does it make any noise? Anything that's significant?
No, nothing significant. The pumps are very small. The chemicals get injected into the tank at a very low rate. So it's nothing noisy.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And is there testing or anything in place to make sure the rechlorination doesn't become excessive?
Oh, absolutely. Just like we monitor, that the level doesn't go too low, we monitor that it doesn't go too high as well. So the system will be tied into our SCADA system and monitored continuously by our licensed operators.
So if it does, so for example, if it went too high, that water would not necessarily be bled into the system. You could put a stop on it?
So if there was a problem with the injection system, we would be turning it off. If it went to I'm not trying to dodge your question. I'm trying to think of how to respond. I guess I don't know how to respond to your question. If something went wrong, what I could say, what would happen with the water. What I can say, and maybe Bill or Chris could help me out again, but what I would say is that if something went wrong with the system, we would know right away. We would shut it down, and we would send people out there, to get boots on the ground to fix the problem.
And in the application, you make reference to the chlorine residuals in this portion of the water distribution system can become low during the summer months. So has there been a precipitating event, or is this just a normal maintenance and a best practices approach to maintaining the water quality?
It's definitely a proactive measure on the part of the water company. As demand increases and usage increases, certainly, the characteristics of the system change over time. So this is a response to that. And going back to your other question, I wasn't trying to dodge it, but if needed, say if there was a major problem and something went wrong and now there's too much chemicals in the tank, but that's not really a likely scenario. But there's valving right at the tank, so we could isolate the tank from the system if needed.
Okay, and so it's monitored remotely in real time?
Correct.
Okay. And John, you looked up the special use permit?
I did, Mayor. I pulled up section 13-1006 of our land use ordinance, and it indicates that the township committee can permit activities for a limited period of time under very specific conditions. And then it so notes that if the township chooses to do so, it shall limit the time period for which the special use permit shall be valid and shall impose any conditions upon the special use permit which it deems appropriate. So there's no per se 1 year. I think the 1 year comes to mind because we've done that in the past. So it seems to me it could be for a specific period of time that you elect to impose.
Okay.
At which time you could then say it expires and they would need to go to the land use board if so required, if they wanted to continue use.
Mr. Flowstrup, how much of a inconvenience would it be for New Jersey American Water to come back here after 1 year and renew, or by that time make your application to the land use board for a permanent solution?
That would be fine. It's no problem at all. We could come back in 12 months if that's what the board prefers.
And a water expert just walked in. Okay, so I mean, that addresses my questions. Township committee?
I think it'd be great for them to come back after a year just to see how it's working. And if they need to do something else, then at that time we could do something.
Gina?
I agree.
Doug? Colin?
No, just because I think Mr. Floyd,
Oh,
one of his
sure.
colleagues has his hand up, so I just want to make sure he gets his question or comment addressed.
No, that was just my.
Oh, that was
No,
you.
that was just your cursor.
No.
Okay. Doug?
No comment.
Okay, so let's make this a 1 year. So June 13, 2022 to June, let's make it June 12, 2023. for the 1-year special use permit for the installation and operation of a temporary treatment trailer at the location identified in the application.
It's good.
Okay? Motion?
Motion to accept.
Second?
All in favor?
All
Aye.
right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to monthly report discussions by subcommittee chair. And Doug, we will start with you.
All righty. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. First order of business is the continued dialogue with the Bedminster Township School. We had a meeting. It's going well. We've got an itemization of various services that we share together. We're trying to memorialize that and get it to a bit more of a formalized process. So we're still going down that road. The school gave us a good list. We're now going out and trying to assign some values, and we're putting together a list of things that the school does for us. So that's going well. That'll continue into June, likely get concluded by maybe the end of June, early July. On DPW, we're still mowing and trimming and keeping everybody busy, the road improvements, but all seems to be going pretty well there. Thank you, Mayor, for noting the loss of Todd Stires. I wanted to mention that as part of the Sewer Advisory Committee update. He's going to be a big loss. He's very involved in that group and had a lot of good ideas. So let's, we'll have to try to fill that role, but that's a big loss for us, and condolences to the family for sure. The STAB meeting with PPAC Gladstone in Far Hills went off last week. Everything's on course. They asked for updates on the status of the federal funding. We gave them the update. We're still waiting for it to come through, but cautiously optimistic, fingers crossed. And Rodney, I don't know if he's there or not, but he was explaining that he put together a pretty essential fix to a valve on the main, or the forced main down to EDC this past couple of weeks ago. So progress getting made there, and the big ticket items to follow. And that's all I've got there for my updates. I've got Historic Press coming up later this month. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. And just a quick update. When the Burnsville News, back there, Jake, ran the article of our last discussion, and we mentioned Congressman Malinowski putting the pump station on the, earmark on the appropriations, or an appropriations bill. I flipped or forwarded, not to be so glib, I forwarded the article to Congressman Malinowski. Congressman Malinowski called me back immediately, which also gave me the opportunity to actually find out where this bill is. And it sounds like the bill is still percolating its way through the House, and the congressman expected it to make its way out of the House and to the Senate by July or August. And hopefully action is then taken quickly, because otherwise it'll be pushed off until Congress reconvenes. But he had expectations it would certainly go through the House and should go through the Senate as well. So
That's great.
and I don't know when that'll be eventually approved and signed off by the president, or the money will flow. Presumably it's identified as fiscal year 2023, but that doesn't necessarily mean the money may come earlier, the money may come later. It all depends on how Congress moves on that. But so we will continue to follow up with the congressman's office, and once the bill moves forward, we can all track that legislation as it moves forward. And if there's any hiccups, we'll have to make adjustments accordingly. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, all. Just a quick update. Board of Health did not have a meeting last month, but we are meeting next week. There are no new applications, but there's small business to attend to, including re-examination of how certain home improvements trigger septic requirements. So we may be straightening up some of their rules and regs, and I'll report out on that next month.
I think some of the board members have some strong opinions on that themselves.
They certainly do, Mayor. So
It's one thing to be on a board. It's another thing to be the applicant.
yes, and it's provided a good learning opportunity. So now we're going to see what might be done to revise some of those triggers that were last revisited about 20 years ago. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Committeewoman Mareski.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. A couple quick things from Environmental Commission. Just want to remind everybody about the well water testing. Kind of goes hand in hand with the septics over there. June 18th, so not this Saturday, but the following. You can pick up your kids at the fairgrounds between 9 and 12 on Saturday, and then you return them back to the fairgrounds on the 20th. Any questions, reach out to Raritan Headwaters Well Testing Office at 908-234-1852, extension 401. Let's see, the other thing, in New Jersey Tree Recovery Program, just want to let everybody know that the EC had a very successful day. That was back in April on the 23rd, giving out trees to Bedminster residents at our bulky waste day here. We actually had about 1,000 trees that the state gave to us. And out of that 1,000, about 750 trees were given out. Commissioner Whit Parker has been very kind, and he has kept the balance of the trees, 250, and he's planted them, I'm not sure where, but they are safe and sound, and he will steward them through until either next spring at the next event, or until they find a good place to plant them. So that's-
I'll just say we picked up a couple of those little bare saplings.
Yep.
And looking at them like, are these live? They just look like twigs. And in a few weeks, we have little trees.
Excellent.
So it's great. Great. It's a great program. Thank you. Thank you again to the EC for running it.
I'll pass that along. And just to let you know about the model showing that was last month on May 19th. It was very successful. We had about 30 people come to the building, which actually looks beautiful now. It's all painted, nice and bright and shiny. The model's designer, his name is Steve Schwab. He was on site to answer any questions about that model. And several members of the Friends of Jacobus Vanderveer were on hand to docent people through the remaining part of the house if you hadn't seen it. I know Robin was there. There were a bunch of people from town. It was very exciting. And let's see, earlier this month, Yolanda Sillo, who was the trustee who actually sponsored the model, she was very kind and gave a couple tours through the house separately. One was for the St. Lawrence Rosary Society of Chester, the other to the Society of Cincinnatus. These visits not only garnered donations to the house, but plans for these groups to come back for future visits. Additionally, Georgie Schley, who a lot of you know is a longtime resident of the town with her family and very active in Bedminster, she gave the opening remarks at the reveal party, and she has since discussed with Yolanda to have a private showing for Christy Todd Whitman and perhaps Governor Tom Kean, and they have a tentative date of June 16th. And the Friends are actually inviting all of us to come and see it. I want to say that it's a very fun, interactive piece that I think kids will enjoy, but it's actually an amazing representation of our first military training center in the United States, no matter what West Point says. And I think you'll all find it very informative and very charming. It's a really beautiful piece. I know everybody is very busy, but it's definitely worth your time. And I hope that we can all get together for the time and have Yolanda and perhaps Steve Schwab come give us a little tour of it. And that's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Committeewoman Fernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one exciting update regarding the stigma-free initiative from the county. So here at Bedminster, we're proud to be stigma-free. And the goal of the municipalities is to educate, promote awareness, and gather public interest to raise awareness of resources and encourage residents to engage in care for their mental wellness. So we will be passing a resolution tonight to designate Bedminster a stigma-free community. As we know, mental health is a serious public health concern. And a few of the action plans that are suggested by the Somerset County Stigma-Free Initiative Task Force are to develop a website or an extension of your municipality website with stigma-free information and local mental health resources. So a team effort between myself, Robin, and Caitlin, we've created a Bedminster is Proud to Be Stigma-Free booklet with resources that include local hotlines, crisis emergency services, support groups, treatment services, and youth activities to engage both adults and youth in the community in mental wellness, and again, to be stigma-free and to really engage our community. And another suggestion on the stigma-free action plan is to set up a stigma-free booth at townwide events and community days. So we will be setting up a booth with this nice new tablecloth at the farmer's market and as well as at Fall Fest a few times from now through the end of the year. So that is very exciting. And I hope if anybody has any questions regarding the stigma-free initiative and what it's about, let me know. Otherwise, we'll be passing a resolution tonight to be stigma-free here in Bedminster.
So I just want to say that, from when we first got hit with COVID, right? So Gina, you had just been, I guess you had just come in as a committee woman, and there we are, we're lockdown, and we've got a deadly virus working its way through town. And as we are trying to figure out what's the township committee's role, and we're looking at budget issues, we're doing everything else, and we started doing the resource guide for Bedminster residents, and we all picked different topics, and we were going to put it together. Gina jumped on the issue of mental health and recognized from early on that the COVID crisis and the COVID reaction, so it's not just the COVID, that to be afraid, but also that the government response was also putting pressures on people staying at home, and right, that could be staying at home in a bad relationship with no place to go. Put pressures on our police department, put pressures within the administration ourselves here and the staff building, but also to get that information out there. And you championed this from the beginning. And when I was reading about what some of our other towns or neighboring towns were doing with the stigma-free initiative, one thing that we talked about is not just having this as a symbolic resolution. It has to be meaningful and purposeful and impactful. And I just applaud you again for continuing to champion this issue. And I think this is great for Bedminster. We look forward to having you guys participate at the market and everywhere else in Bedminster. So thank you again, Gina. Okay, I'll just hit on a couple of issues. Library, we continue to go through the website, and it's not there yet, but all the different iterations of the soon-to-be library website are great. Much better than what we have right now for Clarence Tillman. So that's really sort of the main focus, I believe, of our library board activities. This week, we do have a land use board meeting. We do not have any applications to consider at this week's land use board hearing, but what we are going to discuss is, one, continuing the efforts for plan endorsement to make sure that the Bedminster Master Plan is endorsed by the State Master Plan Committee. That comes with some benefits. Economic incentives for some of the property owners and folks looking to locate businesses here in Bedminster, as well as, according to our land use board attorney, it also gives a certain level of credence and legal support for future challenges, if any, to our zoning ordinances. So we will continue those efforts. We did get some feedback from the State Planning Commission just as recently as this week. So those will be considered at the Land Use Board on Thursday. And then the other issue that we're going to consider at the Land Use Board is giving some direction as the mayor to the Land Use Board to take the recommendations from the planning study on the AT&T campus and to start trying to flesh out a zoning ordinance. So as events are happening in Bedminster and certainly with regard to AT&T, want to make sure that we are in place, that if there is any movement by AT&T, whether, once again, we hope they stay, and not only do we hope they stay, we hope they grow at the campus, but we will be prepared for whatever comes our way. And oftentimes you see towns are reactionary to a situation. I want to make sure that we are ahead of that. So those are the directions I'm giving, and hopefully we'll start that conversation with the Land Use Board on Thursday. Farmers Market. So since our last meeting, we have had 2 farmers markets at River Road. First one started off great. Colin said we were ahead on the count. Got a little bit of rain, maybe a little bit more than a little bit of rain, but it didn't dampen, no pun intended, the enthusiasm for all the participants and everyone that was coming out there. We still ended up with well over 600 people on the opening day. That was Saturday, Memorial Day weekend. This weekend, first Saturday in June, was our second day of the farmers market. And Colin, what was the number we ended up with?
Our final number was 1,022.
Wow.
I think that might be a record.
I believe that is a record. We had 1,022 people, not including our vendors, not including our volunteers, not including the master gardeners who showed up. We had 1,022 people, and it was just nonstop. I actually had a break at one point because I was giving a little presentation at Crossroads for Hope for their butterfly release in support of cancer survivors, cancer families, which is frankly another great event. But it was just tremendous. And then I came back to the farmers market and it was just buzzing, and it was busy nonstop.
We didn't even close down until about 1:30.
Park everybody.
On top of one another.
Oh,
Yeah.
Christmas.
So back in the back fields, so this is going away from the farmer's market, there was a second line of cars that were parking. And I'm still not quite sure if that started at the direction of whoever was organizing the parking back there, or if it just happened spontaneously, but it worked. And I do want to, some of the comments that we were hearing about, whether it was where I am parking or where Colin was, the walkway got huge thumbs up. And, for the volunteers with our flags, we're in the driveway. So we know to look out. So, look in front, look behind, look to the sides, make sure that cars are coming. This year, we don't have to put as much effort into pedestrians walking down the driveway because they all know to use that path. And I was anticipating maybe a 50% hit rate, that maybe 50% of people would use the path without being told to use the path. Had to be around 95%.
Yep.
And people love it. And they think that the stone dust path works seamlessly within the park. So it's not as obtrusive or it doesn't stand out like a paved path would do. It was just great. It really was great. And the other compliment was about having the beer. So I think the path got more compliments than having beer, but We'll take them both. So,
Excuse me, Mayor, is Rodney there?
yeah, Rodney is here. So Rodney is the one that we're directing our comments to.
Because I will give him kudos. He specifically reached out to me to ask how that went over. So I'm so glad to hear that. And great job, great job.
Yeah, it really was. It was just, and it,
So many people come up with
Yeah.
unsolicited comments like, this is great, this is such a nice addition, so kudos. I mean, it's made a great experience even better. It really has.
and
The fact that 95% of they just value safety and just decided to walk that way, I mean, that's great, that's usually.
yeah, there's so few people that we needed to,
Always a
can you
few.
please use the path? Oh, I didn't know that was.
A little bit of a training
Yeah,
issue.
yeah, but not bad, but all good. And
Nice.
so, I also want to, so just a special thanks to the folks on the Farmers Market Committee, because this was something we actually discussed, right? So it's not just, going with the status quo, but always looking to make improvements, whether on the functioning of the market or on safety. And this was a safety issue. And it was vetted both by the Farmers Market Committee and the Rec Committee and implemented by DPW. So thank you guys. Thank you very much. Ms. Ray, Administrator's Report.
Sure, just to follow up to your follow-up with Malinowski's office, I reached out to Natalie Merrick, who was our, the person we submitted the application to. She's been great as far as keeping us in the loop. And going forward, she did say that towards the end of this month, it should pass both houses and anticipate November, December
Okay.
for financial and notations. She did say that the projects that were submitted last year are just now beginning to hear about their funding, so it takes a little while. But she said she will give us monthly updates, which is great.
Okay,
So
Great.
that's wonderful. Second, I have, there was a COVID vaccine clinic that was held 2 weeks ago at the firehouse, and just wanted to provide some of the numbers from Ben Strong. It was actually on May 26th. They had 31 COVID vaccines they gave out. They did not break it down for me as to first, second, third, or booster. And there were also 66 test kits that were given out to residents, up to 2 each. Really pleased to talk about this one, because this has been something that we've been working towards, both Colin, myself, and Bishant Saran, our IT manager, that I'm pleased to announce that as of May 31st, that we have reached our Tier 3 compliance, which means that we are fully compliant with the Municipal Excess Liability Joint Insurance Fund regarding cybersecurity. So that was a big push to get that done this past year. And that means that should we have an event, a cyber attack, that our deductible is much less because we've reached Tier 3. So it's the best way to be. I will tell you that we did, the MEL does produce an emergency procedures guideline should we have an attack. So we decided, since Somerset County had an issue, that we got our ducks in a row just to make sure we understand all the processes and who we need to notify right away. So we reviewed that last week as well. So we're in good shape. And we have a department head meeting coming up on Thursday to review a number of policies, and as well as go over the performance evaluations. And then what else do I have? Oh, the Pingree. Let me just follow up with you. We had a couple residents that had made some complaints about the Pingree fireworks. So I just wanted to let you all know that I did reach out to Pingree. I did my due diligence. They actually did send to everyone in the 1,000-foot list. Usually we require only a 200-foot list. But Ed, our tax assessor, gave them a 1,000-foot list since they border 3 different communities. And I did speak with the postmaster. I have the actual list from Pingree of who the names were. There's over 100 names that the postcards were mailed to. This is the postcard that was sent out. It was a 5x7 double-sided postcard. The postmaster actually did say that they came in over a 3-day span from Pingree, and that they came in as raw mail and they needed to be sorted, and his staff, as well as himself, put them in every box that they needed to. So he said he had a recycling bin that was next to the post office boxes, and most of the postcards ended up in the recycling bin. So I just wanted to follow up.
So, once again, Pingree first talked about doing this event. You said, sure, you notify the community because this is probably going to be the largest, activity. The antique show is a great event, but probably not going to be as many people as at once and that does not involve fireworks. And we encourage them to be aggressive on notifying the community. They did the 1,000-foot owners list. Robin confirmed with the postmaster that, yeah, indeed, they did, and he specifically remembers handling it. But as with a lot of mail these days, it doesn't get reviewed. And so, maybe something that, just as we mentioned with Hamilton, best efforts sometimes don't always work. And, maybe Pingree needs, for future events, needs to consider something different other than the mailing notice. So thank you for that follow-up, Robin.
You're welcome. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. We have 5 ordinances to introduce tonight. And this all follows the adoption of the budget. So now it's time to start spending the money that we put into the budget. So let's start with ordinance number 2022-004. This ordinance authorizes appropriating $37,000 for various equipment for the Bedminster Township Police Department. If the ordinance is introduced, the public hearing will be scheduled for June 20, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Bedminster Municipal Building. So we don't have to go into the discussion. We just have to take a motion to introduce ordinance 2022-004.
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson?
You just stepped out for a second.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez? Aye. Mr.
Sorry, here, aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye, the public hearing will be scheduled for June 20th. Next, ordinance number 2022-005. This ordinance authorizes appropriating $18,000 for various firefighting equipment for the Pottersville Volunteer Fire Company. If approved, the public hearing will be scheduled for June 20th. We have a motion to introduce ordinance 2022-005.
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote again, please. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez? Aye. And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye. Once again, public hearing will be June 20th. Next, ordinance number 2022-006. This ordinance authorizes appropriating $32,000 for various firefighting equipment for the Far Hills Bedminster Fire Department. If introduced, the public hearing will be scheduled for June 20th. May we have a motion? Well, may we have a motion to introduce?
So,
Go ahead.
so moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez? Aye. And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Public hearing will be scheduled for June 20th. Ordinance number 2022-007, the ordinance authorizes appropriating $25,000, right?
Yes.
Should be an extra zero there, for various capital facility improvements in Bedminster. If approved, or I'm sorry, if introduced, the public hearing will be June 20th. May we have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez? And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Public hearing will be June 20th. And the last ordinance, ordinance number 2022-008. This ordinance authorizes the purchase of motor vehicles and equipment for the Public Works Department as part of the regular vehicle replacement program at a total amount not to exceed $118,000. If introduced, the public hearing for the ordinance will be scheduled for June 20th. May we have motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
The public hearing for that ordinance will be June 20th. And at June 20th, we'll have presumably, we'll have representatives from the police, Pottersville, Far Hills, DPW, to discuss the elements of what goes, what those expenditures are for. We don't have any public hearing for ordinances tonight, so get to move on. We do have 5 items on the consent agenda. Those items are of routine nature. So unless there's a request from any of the township committee members to withdraw and discuss individually. If not, may we have a motion to approve the consent agenda and the 5 items?
So moved.
So moved.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
We have 2 resolutions that are not on the consent agenda. And the first resolution we're going to consider is resolution number 2022-054, which adopts a stigma-free policy for Bedminster Township. So who wants to cover this? Robin, you or Gina?
Okay.
Oh. Nicely done, Robin.
Sorry, whereas or explanation? Want me to read it?
No.
Yeah, it's up to you. Just talk it. Yeah, just talk it
The
through.
resolution is just to designate Bedminster a stigma-free community. We are recognizing the public health crisis that is mental health, mental illness, and substance use disorders, and that they are more common than many diseases that affect children and adults the same. We are recognizing that there's a stigma associated with those, and here in Bedminster, we're declaring that we're a stigma-free community, and we're vowing to spread awareness and raise public interest and promote and educate our residents regarding what it means to be a stigma-free community.
Great. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Gina, thank you for taking that on. If COVID taught us anything, is how important it is to focus on this initiative.
Yes, absolutely.
Agree wholeheartedly. It's a great job, Gina, and fully support the resolution.
Okay, so no other comments. May we have a motion to approve resolution number 2022-054?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez? Aye. And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution number 2022-060 amends the part-time IT manager position to full-time. Ms. Ray, do you or perhaps Mr. Hickey wants to discuss?
I'm
Kick it
happy to
off.
Take this one.
You got it.
So during our budget discussions, as part of our process in the last year with really wrapping our heads around IT, we decided that it's a big job to do here in Bedminster Township. And with the complexity of our needs, ever changing, just the sheer evolution of technology and all the cybersecurity threats, it was decided that it would be best interest of Bedminster Township to move this position to a full-time position. And the position was planned and budgeted for during the budget process. Did I get that?
I think you got it.
Okay.
Well, how about some comments on in support or against the resolution?
Well, no, I strongly support it. As Robin mentioned, that IT manager job has become a full-time position given the requirements that are put on us by the state, by the county, and just by the nature of everything being digitized, right? Robin was very modest before we were talking about the JIF compliance. That alone was a tremendous project spanning multiple years with many steps. And the fact of the matter is, between Robin, who was bird dogging it, and Vishant, who was running it, we were pushing our vendors, our suppliers, and our partners in a lot of cases where they were not compliant, and we had to teach them how to become compliant. So, and you think about everything we do and we touch has an IT fingerprint in it these days. So critical, and down to, by the way, how we run these meetings, right? Which we started in COVID, and now we're going to do it on a permanent basis. So absolutely necessary as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, look what's happening.
Questions or comments?
I think Doug has something.
Oh, Doug, sorry.
Say, look what's happening down in Somerville right now. The importance of IT, and to think that we're immune because we're a municipality. Nothing could be further from the truth, right? It's in a lot of extent we're a repository for a lot of data and information, and I think that we see the benefit here of having a guy full time, or someone in the position full time, I should say, and I certainly would support this as well.
Thank you. There's no other questions or comments. May we have a motion to approve resolution number 2022-060. This would convert our IT manager, Vishant Saran, to a full-time IT manager at 40 hours per week.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Hickey?
Aye.
Boraski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez? And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Doug,
Doug, one of Doug's dogs just voted yes. I think that was a yes.
I think so.
That was a yes?
Someone's probably walking by with food.
Okay. Okay, may we have a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices?
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Boraski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez? Aye. And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, anything for new business? Seeing none, let's move to old business. We covered COVID-19 already. The DOT improvements, the chief is not here, and he was still following up with DOT regarding completion of the improvements at River Road and commencing, or certainly designing the similar improvements for Hills Drive, so we'll push that off. Utilities, let's start with Committeeman Hickey for a quick update on if there's anything going on with JCP&L or Altis.
Nothing new on JCP&L. I will talk about Altis for a minute. As I mentioned last time, we've been scheduling and holding one-on-one meetings with each one of the homeowners associations in the Hills. Just finished up one a few hours ago. We have another one scheduled for tomorrow. The boards have generally been receptive to the fiber upgrade. I think they understand the need, and Altis has addressed in detail their plans to minimize damage to both the landscaping and to the roadways in each of those communities. Altis is using what's called a stitch boring technique. So they open up some turf grass in an area alongside the road, and they insert a directional bore. It tunnels underground, goes about 50 feet, and it pops up another little window that they've created in the turf. They go deep enough so it doesn't disturb any kind of sprinkler systems or low voltage lighting. Obviously, they've done the markouts so they don't touch the utilities. Depending on, yeah. So Ronnie, don't worry, they're not going to hit your lights. Depending on the neighborhood, the work can take from 2 to 3 weeks up to 6 to 8 weeks where they have longer runs. They will also install new fiber pedestals. You see those little cable pedestals. Sometimes they look like little green bullets standing up in the ground. Those will be upgraded. They're slightly larger than the existing pedestals, but not too much so. The plan is to run the fiber to those pedestals now. And then when a customer upgrades to fiber connectivity, they'll run the proverbial final last 10 feet from the pedestal to the person's home.
Is that the same for the detached single-family units as opposed to multifamily structures?
Yes. So basically, they're enabling it now, and then as they start to put postcards in the mailboxes, hey, you now have fiber in your neighborhood, then they'll start to do the final lines from the pedestals. Like I said, it's the 10 or 15 feet to get to the homes. And then they'll do the individual wiring within the homes. Altice has told us there will be no installation charge for an existing customer to upgrade to the new fiber service. Also, the new fiber service, obviously faster, much more reliable than the old HFC network. It also has the benefit that it is symmetrical upload and download. So for example, if you have a 100 megabit download today, you probably get 10 meg up. Well, in the future on this, it will be 100 meg down, 100 meg up. So whatever plan you have, you get equal upload and download speeds. So that's a nice added benefit. They are hoping to have enough adjacent neighborhoods sign up so they have a critical mass to begin construction. So we've been kind of clustering meetings to accommodate that. We're hopeful that the actual construction will begin within the next month or so. And as I like to say, more to come.
That's great. So that covers Altice.
Nothing new on JCP&L.
Okay, nothing new on JCP&L. Anything on the western side of town?
Nothing. I do have a request into Planet Networks, who we've been speaking with about fibering part of the western part of Bedminster and the responses that we got to our survey, but I don't have any new information. I hope to get that for our next meeting.
And while at the farmer's market, so another little, a Bedminster resident who is involved in actually a state study that was directed to the Rutgers Blaustein School of Public Policy, talked about what's going on, what we're doing in Western Bedminster and trying to coordinate with Planet Networks to extend fiber connectivity into the Pottersville neighborhood and to some of the streets that radiate from Pottersville. So looking at Long Lane and obviously Black River, and fully supportive, and said, you know, we're going to come out with a study and it's going to sort of talk about the digital divide between developed areas and rural areas. And he said Pottersville would qualify for that. And there is some federal incentives that would go from the feds down to Trenton and then back to the municipalities to the extent some funds were needed to subsidize that fiber extension. Sort of a work in progress right now. The resident expected the study to be released relatively shortly. But also, you know, it once again, whether you're in Pottersville or you're in the hills and you're still on coaxial connections, this is improvement to your use of the internet, your download, your upload, your ability to work, your ability to attend and participate in school, your entertainment, and accordingly, your home values. So this will increase home values, even if it's just having the fiber available. Doesn't mean you need to sign on for the fiber, but just so that it's available to your house, to your neighborhood, puts you at a leg up over a similar situated neighborhood that doesn't have it. So once again, thank you for those efforts, and we're pushing on both the hills and in Pottersville. Okay, so moving off those utilities, Gina and Doug, any further updates on your discussions with PSE&G?
I have sent an email out to Tanya Banks because as far as I know, no one on Deerhaven has gotten a quote or anything. All the other neighborhoods have gotten their quote, but we have not, and she's not gotten back to me as of yet, but I'm still working on it.
Okay. And Doug, anything from your end?
Mayor, I connected on my situation individually because I submitted an application. I can report on that, certainly. It's a bit circular because it brings me back to where I started, and I just don't understand it. The $86,000 that was assessed, I had asked whether that was just to run the main, and I was questioning whether that was my personal charge or whether that was the total charge to run the main to my house. And the response that I got back didn't really clarify the answer. So I'll keep pushing. Again, I think that from Ski Hill Drive, I don't think it's economically feasible, regardless of the answer. But I would like to know the answer to the question.
All right, so offline, I'll give you the name of the contact that I worked with previously at PSE&G. And he would probably be I think he's the more senior person that we started the discussions with. So maybe he's a good person for you to reach out to.
That would be great, because I'd also like to raise the larger issue, and that is, why is it that the consumer is fronting the hard costs here and to bring the line in? Just conceptually, it just doesn't. I don't know.
And just as in my own work experience, someone asked me to look at some environmental issues associated with bringing a PSE&G line to a very large property. And according to the client representative, PSE&G was bringing it to the building at no cost from the main that was already in the street, but bringing it to the house. And apparently it was based on the consumption. So it was a large building with some outbuildings, and they were all good. All the buildings were going to be connected with natural gas. So, whether it's within the PSE&G calculus, is it based on, is it total consumption? Doug, as you said, they're going to have long-time customers, and whether they're going to convert to gas now or later, they're going to convert eventually. And so the funds are there, the opportunity is there for PSE&G.
Yeah, and fundamentally, and believe me, I'm no expert here. I'm just sort of speaking half consumer, half committeeman. I understand the analysis of BTU usage and the cost to run the line from the main to your house, right? If you don't justify the give, then you have to pay to run that. I get that. But they're saying we're paying to run the main line that runs the gas from, whatever, the endpoint to the main neighborhood. I just don't see why that should be on the shoulders of the residents.
Agreed. So, Doug, keep up the fight and let's get something accomplished here. Let's not give up on it just yet. Let's see that. Oh, Pluckman Park. So between Doug and John, I'm not sure if you guys had further discussions on the opportunities there.
Robin would tell us we were going to have the construction code official and the township engineer go out and inspect the property and make certain recommendations and report back to us. So I'm not certain if that's happened yet. We don't know that the construction official.
Yeah, I think on for executive.
Yeah.
That's a second committee discussion.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll go to township committee comments. We'll go to executive session afterwards. And we do have a resolution to consider after executive session. So we will come back to public session for something more than the obligatory adjournment. So let's go through township committee comments now. Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. I hate that I'm remote for this because, the connection coming through and all that. But just thinking and listening to Colin, you giving your update about the fiber and the hills, and then thinking back to what these last 2 years has been all about. And I don't think you could have gone a day on social media at the start of COVID in those first, 6 months, 8 months, where you did not hear some complaint about someone trying to get work done on a computer and it crashing and the inability to actually get through the day. And the notion that you and your efforts, Colin, that you'd be able to move a utility to the point where they're coming in ready to bore, holes underneath, people's driveways to bring fiber in. That is outstanding. It really is just incredible. And you should be commended for that. And it's a privilege to serve with you and the rest of you. But in particular, in this instance, Colin, it's a great job and tremendous effort. So thank you for doing that for the folks over in the hills and elsewhere.
Right.
Doug, I'm now speechless. Thank you, Doug, for those kind comments. But it's always a group effort here, as everything else is. So, but I do appreciate the comments. We're getting there.
And now it's your turn.
Now it's my turn. I just, a little off topic, but let's just remember it's the 78th anniversary of D-Day. We should remember those who served and those who made the ultimate sacrifice, lest we not forget. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Committeewoman Moreski.
As we close out our meeting, just want to remind everybody tomorrow's primary. Let's get out and vote, please. That's all I got.
Committeewoman Fernandez.
That's what I was gonna say.
I thought you stole someone.
Don't forget to get out and vote.
And I was going to say the same thing. So Renee, this was time for you to
Yeah.
take the lead on that. Okay, we do an executive session. We have two items to consider. So what we will do is we'll take a motion to, let's see, it is 8:16. Take a motion to adjourn to executive session. We'll go to executive session. We'll return to the same Zoom session to consider a resolution and then to adjourn the meeting. So maybe we have a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll see you on the back end.
You're back on.
Okay, we are recording. We are recording. We are back from executive session. It is 9:59. So just as I indicated before we adjourned for executive session, that we do have a resolution to consider. And this resolution grants a one-time special compensation for Sarah Hausman in her role as deputy clerk, finance clerk, acting QPA. And this special compensation is a one-time stipend of $3,000. That's resolution 2022-061. Any further comments, questions regarding the resolution? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve resolution 2022-061. So,
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hippie,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez, and Mayor Jacobs.
aye. Okay, that is the last item on tonight's agenda. So it is, it's 10 o'clock. Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.
Good luck.
Good night, everybody.
Hi, Doug.
Yeah.
Good night.
Hi, Amanda.